I'm going to start with kind of an obvious one that is causing a lot of heat around the internet, and understandably so. And that was an article posted in Psychology Today by a researcher named Satoshi Kanazawa, if I'm pronouncing that correct. And basically, the premise of this guy's article and his research was, according to his research, quote unquote, that black women are physically less attractive to people. And understandably so, this has upset a lot of people. Before we get into that, however, first let me start by saying that I don't have a politically correct bone in my entire body. If somebody does research properly, it's well done research, and the conclusion of that research is something that may not be considered politically correct, I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that. I will defend that person to the end, because what is politically correct or what is socially acceptable is not always supported by the research, and vice versa, and that's fine. That's not the issue here. Confused. So let's start with the basic issues. One of the basic issues, of course, is that the conclusions or the effect of research, of course, comes from the data you put into it, how you gather this data. You look at a study like this, and he doesn't give you this information in this paper, but you look at such a paper, and you've got to, of course, who was involved, how many people were involved, are cultural differences adjusted for? That is, would you find the same effect in the U.S. as you would in 2 or 3 other countries, or what have you? Or would you even find the same effect in different parts of the U.S., and so on and so forth? So one has got to look at how the study is conducted to see how the results came from, and then decide at least whether this is well-conducted research to understand if the conclusions are correct. Now beyond that, and that's another topic, but at least you get a sense of how this works. Beyond that is, from such a study, are the interpretation of the results. Okay, you get your results, and then how do you interpret them? Now the interpretation may be completely incorrect. The numbers may say, or the study might say X, but the interpretation from the researcher might really not be very well done. I would certainly say that's the case with this, but on another note, the way the study is conducted is, in my view, crap. Sorry, that's not the scientific term I should be using. The politically correct term, what have you, would be to say the study is flawed. In my personal opinion, the study is crap. And this guy, Dr. Kanazawa, if I'm pronouncing that correct, sticks his foot in his mouth in a way like I have never seen. It just makes a lot of really stupid comments that are offensive, and understandably offensive to people in general, black women specifically, understandably. But like I say, we're getting a lot of people, I'm sure, out there tearing up this study, or tearing up this paper, should I say. And so I'm not going to sit here and just go through detail by detail, because you can find that other places. I want to give you the more take-home info. But as I was saying, some of the interpretation that this guy puts out that understandably is going to offend people. I'm just going to grab a couple of statements here. But one of my favorites, for example, he states, it is very interesting to note that even though black women are objectively less physically attractive than other women, what? Where does his data support that? Objectively, no. Subjectively, based on your flawed study, yes. Maybe. At best. But where he gets a statement like that, I have no idea. And he then goes on to ramble about testosterone levels and masculinity, and makes other statements of fact that are not supported by the data, but are simply, apparently, his subjective personal opinion, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty bad. So a study like this, or a paper like this, when I see these types of things, I basically put them in my who funds this crap file. So I'm going to take that and put that in my who funds this crap file. And I do have a file, as you can see, where I keep stuff. And the point of that is, this type of research can have social impact, good, important social impact. And I'll give you an example. For example, you have studies, and there are studies, these are not made-up studies. There are studies, for example, that show that shorter men and taller men can suffer different rates of different diseases. And that can have social impact. That can have medical impact. For example, If men above a certain height are found to suffer a particular disease at much higher rates than men below that height, for example, heart disease or what have you, then that might have social medical impact. That is, it might come down to medical practice that these men maybe should be screened more often for this particular disease. So this type of research can have valid uses, because you might be wondering, well, what is the purpose of some of this research? This research has no value. It doesn't serve any purpose. And again, which again brings me back to who the hell funds this stuff? Who approves a study? For example, studies find, and they're fairly consistent with this, that women prefer taller men to shorter men. And I don't think that comes as a big surprise. And again, it might be different. It's probably different culture to culture. But in the U.S., it's a fairly consistent finding that women prefer taller men to shorter men. And I don't remember what the height differences were. But the bottom line is, what does it impact socially? It doesn't have any impact socially. It doesn't do anything positive for anybody. It doesn't make us change. Okay, I'm 5'7", and I see that study. What am I going to do with this study? Am I going to wear stilts? Am I going to change my life? Do I change my personality? No, this is important, I think, to separate research that is well conducted and comes out with potentially a finding that is not, say, socially acceptable or politically correct. And the issue is that, okay, what is the interpretation? How do you try to use that finding to help people or not help people? Take home for me is, even if the study is absolutely correct, is true, let's say that black women in this culture are seen as physically less attractive by most people. Again, what is the useful utility of that study? The answer, of course, is not. And for example, again, I can't change my height. I don't really care. I'm going to do my business. At the end of the day, if you're a good person, you have a good personality, you're an honest person, I don't care if you're purple. So bottom line here is, even if this is accurate data, let's say he does it again, or he does a better job, or somebody else reproduces it and gets the same thing, the bottom line is, as far as I'm concerned, that just leaves more women of color for short-ass white men like me. Okay? That's the bottom line. And that's my rant for the day. I'll see you all on the Brink Zone.